This week on the Game Marks podcast, we travel back to 1994 and fire up Shin Nippon Pro Wrestling 94, Battlefield in Tokyo Dome for the Super Famicom and CD-ROM. We throw ourselves into the mix in the Battlefield in Tokyo Dome and the G1 Climax to compete to become the IWGP champion. Our deep dive covers it all, and we let you know if we'll play it forever or future endeavor.
You're fired!
Plus, this week's Clash at the Feast tournament. Plug in and put on those nostalgia goggles because this week's Game Marks podcast starts now.
And now, the Game Marks!
Welcome to the Game Marks podcast. My name is George Feast.
And I'm Johnny Clash, and this week we are playing Shin Nippon Pro Wrestling 94, Battlefield in Tokyo Dome.
And as always, we love to hear from you guys, so please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and make sure to subscribe and rate this podcast wherever you choose to listen and join the conversation on all forms of social media at Game Marks Pod. How are you doing, Johnny boy?
I'm doing pretty good. You know, I had to pull myself away from the Cutie Suzuki watch mode to come record this on this bright, beautiful day. How are you?
I'm glad you were able to strip yourself away from those inappropriate pixel games, and I hope that you are well versed and well rested to play and review this week's game.
I'm pretty. Is this our first New Japan a licensed game that we're playing?
Technically Fire Pro.
No. It was
not
not licensed back in
That's
Fire
true.
Pro
That's
Returns.
that's right, because everyone has off-branded names. Fire Pro World, I think, does because of the DLCs.
Right, which is now,
Yeah.
what, $14.99 in the PlayStation Store?
Well, I do believe as we are recording this episode, it is on sale, so be sure to check out Johnny Clash's new favorite game, Fire Pro
Hey.
Wrestling World.
Hey, listen. Listen, Will, like I said, I don't hate the series. I hated the game. I have a very strong feeling that when I get World, I'm going to love it.
I feel like we gotta have, you know how kids have swear jars? You have to put $1 in. I think every time you mention Will, we're gonna put $1 in the jar.
So we could raise up money for a PS5.
Yes.
We'll have it in no
Yes.
time. All right, so like we said, last week we played Cutie Suzuki, no Ringside Angel. I mean, there's
I'm
not
sticking
much
with
to
it.
say.
Don't even ask. I'm sticking with my rating last week. The gameplay was great. The graphics were okay. The art style is horrible. Moving on to this week's game.
Yeah, I think that's it. But before we do, guys, next week's episode, we have.
Ooh-wee.
I'm gonna play a little sound clip here to give you guys a little tease of what's to come.
Call of Duty Modern Warfare.
If you don't get it, you will get it. By the end of this episode, we're going to tell you what we have in store for next week, but this might be, it has to be the greatest episode of this podcast, and I don't know how we will ever top it.
I embodied one of our shirts on ProWrestlingTees.com/GameMarksPod during this interview. I absolutely marked the F out during this interview.
Yeah, I think we both did. And by the end of this episode, like I said, we will tell you exactly what is happening next week on the podcast. So strap in. It's going to be insane.
Oh, baby.
All right, so I want to give another one of our avid listeners, our weekly listeners, a little shout out quick. One of our favorites at WCW Worldwide has been super supportive since the podcast began. Gives us the retweets, gives us the shout outs, sometimes corrects us, which we need.
Yes.
Goes back and listens to previous episodes and shares those. It's great. And specifically, a couple days ago, they tweeted, it's one thing to have a weekly podcast that constantly hits its due date mark, but one that does a new graphic each week in the style of the game they're reviewing. and then it's got a little like yeah emoji with like a little kiss and a little chef with doing the little thing. So I just want to thank WCW Worldwide for that. If you are a WCW mark, like everyone knows I am, go check out their page. They have an Instagram. They are the source. It's like WCW never died when you're following them, because it's just constant content. And they also do a monthly subscription that you should check out with really cool like pins and just vintage WCW stuff. So check them out.
They're absolutely great. Definitely going to plan something in the future. Maybe try to work out something with WCW Worldwide and the pod, and stay tuned. And now it is time for this week's edition of Gaming News.
What's up, Game Marks Podcast? This is Danny Tancredi, and I'm here with my brother Johnny Tancredi, and together we are the Cult Looking Podcast. Each week we bring to you the latest news and reviews on all things baseball collectibles. From baseball cards and memorabilia to bobbleheads and stadium giveaways, each episode will discuss the newest products to hit the shelves of your local card store and your favorite ballparks around the country. Be sure to be following us on Instagram at the Cult Looking Podcast and on Twitter at CultLookingBB. New episodes drop every Friday, so be sure to tune in wherever great podcasts like this one are available. The Cult Looking Podcast. Don't get caught looking, start collecting.
A Star Wars Battlefront spin-off was reportedly in development at EA and was set to release alongside the PS5 and the Xbox Series X this fall, but it has been canceled before even being announced. The report comes way of Kotaku that last spring EA canceled a spin-off of Star Wars Battlefront, making it the third Star Wars game the publisher has canceled since 2017. According to the report, the project was codenamed Viking and was planned to hit this year. However, apparently it was becoming increasingly obvious the game was not going to be able to hit this window, so EA decided to cut its losses and throw away the project. Warner Bros. Montreal hasn't teased its new Batman game since January. However, there are plenty of rumors and leaks about the game making the rounds recently, including word that it may have a massive world. The last game of the series, dubbed Batman Arkham Knight by Rocksteady, had a pretty big and detailed open world, and it looks like Warner Bros. Montreal will expand on this with the new game, which is reportedly a reboot of the series. Speaking of Warner Bros., today, NetherRealm Studios and Warner Bros. Interactive Entertainment revealed the official character bio of Spawn, alongside our first official look at the Mortal Kombat 11 DLC fighter. Now, Spawn is poised to be the next fighting game's DLC character, and the last fighter of the first combat pack when he arrives next month. Unfortunately, the character model has yet to be seen. Spawn is set to hit Mortal Kombat 11 on March 17th. Meanwhile, his gameplay reveal is currently penned in for March 8th, which is likely when we'll finally see his first fatality. And that's all we have for gaming news this week. Check back next week. Actually,
Oh, I'm sad, John.
Star Wars.
Yeah, I just feel like it's like a very abusive relationship. Like, you hear these rumors coming up and things start to bubble under the surface, and you're like, oh, all right, cool, another Star Wars game. I'm kind of excited. The last movie came out. Now, you're looking forward to the new spin-offs on Disney Plus and whatever new Star Wars expanded universe movies you're going to get. And I'm like, okay, maybe we can ride this wave and also get some good games. And I finished The Last Jedi a couple of weeks ago, or not The Last Jedi. I finished Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order a couple of weeks ago. And
I see this news coming in, and that the gif of Obi-Wan, like, you were the chosen one.
It hurts me. It hurts me. And now, it is time for the question of the week.
Hey, George. Are you ready? I said, are you ready? For our Pro Wrestling Tees store. Brace yourself, because the Game Marks podcast is now on ProWrestlingTees.com, featuring multiple designs designed by us.
Head on over to ProWrestlingTees.com/GameMarksPod today to either play it forever or future endeavor.
All right, John, little follow-up from last week's question. I proposed the question of the wrestling shirt that you always wanted as a kid, but you never had, and would hope to see a reprint of as an adult. We got a pretty good amount of responses on Twitter from this one. I think everyone kind of had their own little nostalgia shirt kickback from this question, which is always great to see. Justin Summers. Yeah, Justin Summers at Heavyset330 says 0-3-16 is a very good pick. He says he would put it in his top 5 for the question, but the Kane Kiss My Ash shirt, that's Ash, A-S-H, has always been one that he's wanted, and he's always loved Kane, and he remembered this shirt being advertised on Livewire.
Ooh.
So,
all right, so it's not just us.
That's a throwback.
Yeah, so were you I don't know if you watched the Ruthless Aggression series yet on WWE Network, but there's one section where John Cena goes, and I was wrestling on Velocity, which most of you don't even know what it is. And I was like,
oh, I do remember Velocity. I remember all of them. I remember Velocity,
Livewire, Metal.
Heat,
yeah. Remember Metal?
Yeah. And what was the one? Oh, wait, was that Livewire where like Sonny hosted a couple episodes from the control room with?
Yeah, I believe it was with some with Stone Cold, some with Vince McMahon, Bret Hart would stop by. Yeah.
Yeah, and then
Jim Cornette.
Had, Todd
that was
Grisham.
Livewire. Yeah. Vince Russo.
Yeah.
Okay, Jamie Patterson at Walk On Homeboy. This is the shirt I wish I could bring back. It was a Walmart special, but it was my first ever wrestling shirt. Let me explain this shirt. Okay.
Johnny Clash identifies with this shirt very, very hard. If you had to guess, you don't have to tweet us for this one. Just think in your head. If you had to guess what shirt Johnny Clash was about to talk about, what wrestler? For those of you who have been around the pod for a little bit, you've been with us for a little bit, what shirt do you think that he's about to talk about?
Am I that predictable at this point?
Absolutely. 100%. Did you see the top 10 wrestlers to get to know me list that you wrote?
Yeah, that's true.
What
is that?
Predictable.
So, it's a great shirt, but it's a bit of an awkward shirt. So it's got 3 Sting faces on it. The left side is just Sting's typical promo picture that everyone knows, staring at the screen. The right side is like the bigger version, just flipped and like his full body. But then the middle, all you have is his face. No hair, no no eyes. It's just like his mask, but it's got like a double chin and paint like in the behind the double chin. It's really awkward. The one that Jamie Patterson sent us, this is interesting. It's a black and white Sting. So it's WCW Sting.
I wonder if you're looking at the same one that I'm looking at right now, where it's got the NWO Red logo under it?
Yeah, so I had that one. I had the NWO Red logo one where all the Sting faces were red, and it has the Wolfpack logo underneath. So I'm assuming that maybe...
They probably made multiple versions of this?
Yeah, this is apparently 98, so I'm assuming they made either the white one or the red one, and then just said, hey, let's just put a color filter over this and re-release it as an NWO shirt.
This is a great shirt. You know, the screens that we made for this shirt, let's just put red ink through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a cool shirt. I just think that middle mask is just super awkward with the double chin. But, to each their own. What do I know about designing anything? But then Jamie Patterson says, I changed my mind, and any of these 3 shirts would have been great to own. So the first one's an APA shirt. I don't remember any of these shirts existing other than the bottom one.
I don't either.
The first one is an APA shirt that has the logo, and then it says, always pounding ass, bar and grill. What?
I just
WWF sold this shirt.
And people bought it?
And then the other one is
It's
this
the Triple H game start or press or start game font from I don't even know
from like his
how
My
you
Time
would
video?
lead this up. Yeah, from the My Time video, but just like it says vagina.
Yeah,
It's-
this is I do remember this.
hyphen CHYNA.
Yeah, so Eddie Guerrero used to wear this when he would come out with China and like hand her the roses and all that. And the back actually says "Enter at your own risk."
I don't.
Oh, yeah.
Attitude Era shirts, man.
Attitude Era shirts, man.
Ah. And then the final one is I'll let you take this one, Johnny.
Oh yeah, so the bottom one is yet another WCW shirt. It said Sid rules, and it's just a a cartoon version of Sid standing on top of like, what is that, like a mountain with lightning bolts and stuff, kind of a little He-Man-ish, I guess.
Yeah, it's very comic book-esque. It's
But
I mean, it's not a butt. It's
they drew on Sid's dong, massive.
it is
It's just hanging out there like a big outline. Sid's just packing.
packing heat, man.
Yeah, just if you want to
Packing
look
heat.
it up, just find the Sid Rules shirt from WCW. This is,
You know what? We'll just post a picture of this on our Twitter page. You guys, I think you just need to see this in all its glory.
Yeah.
All right. And Nick Hudson at MC Conditioner says, answering the question from this week's podcast, my shirt that I wanted and will never be able to get is the Stone Cold Blood from a Stone shirt. And the one that he wants that they have remade is the Stone Cold SCU Class of 316 shirt.
This is,
And
yeah,
that
I love these.
Blood from a Stone shirt is just amazing. I forgot that this shirt existed, but I mean,
So
if
they
you
kind
know
of re-released
match
that shirt.
history, you know that.
Yeah, they kind of re-released it on Pro Wrestling Tees. I have it. It says King of Attitude instead, and it's like more of a illustrated version of the same Stone Cold picture, but turned the other way. You know, they changed it up a bit to avoid copyright, I guess. But
Yeah.
it's similar. I have it. It's just not the same, though. I get it if you would want the actual one.
All right. Well, thank you to everyone for those wonderful submissions. Again, if you want to get involved with the question of the week, you can let us know your answers on Twitter at GameMarksPod. And this week, the question of the week is John's question. So, Johnny, what do you got for me this week?
All right, I'm going to keep with the same type of theme of something you wanted but you never got. But I'm going to switch it up a little bit and kind of make it like a two-parter.
Okay.
So, in the realm of wrestling, there has been a lot of wacky products and wacky toys, not just t-shirts. Was there anything you received that was just extremely out there? Like something that you didn't know it existed, you don't know why it existed, but it was there and someone bought it for you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm actually looking at it right now. It's in my DTOF.
Oh, okay.
I have. It's so ridiculous. I had to display it. So I mean, first honorable mention I would say is probably the wrestling Beanie Babies. I have.
Ooh, I have Sting.
I have The Rock. But they made no sense, and I still to this day don't understand the need for those. But I have
I get it.
A blue Beanie Baby that just says The Rock, and the package says "Cuddle up with a little attitude." So I have that, and then I also have I don't even know how to describe it. It's the Stone Cold Steve Austin Wired.com interactive figure
yes.
CD thing.
Yes.
So it's a really nice, it's like 12-inch detailed figure of Stone Cold. It's like pretty articulated, like the knees move, the arms move. It's not like a wrestling figure, but you can pose
Yeah.
it kind of, and you plug it into your computer, you put the disc in, and you can just like make this figure talk and like say things, and it's Stone Cold's voice that comes out. I didn't ask for it.
No one
I
ever asked
had
for it.
no desire to own it, but I still have it to this day, and it is, figure-wise, it's a very nice figure, so I have it in my case. But entertainment-wise, leaves a little bit to be desired.
Yeah, so I had that, and my sister had a Barbie one that was supposed to talk. But the thing is, our computer was so old that it never played the CD-ROM, and like the software just wasn't updated for it to like actually work. So we just kind of kept them on our computer desk, like side by side.
Now, I did a quick Google just to see. I just wanted to see the details for this. So it says Steve Austin, the finger-pointing WWF mascot, can now be directly plugged into your computer. Fans can download his rants and wrestling sound effects right off the internet. Using the enclosed CD-ROM and secret password, players access the WWF Wired website. From there, they download actual rants, 45 seconds long approximately, and program them into their Steve Austin action figure. Press the snake button on Steve's belt to hear him play back the rants you just downloaded, and the action figure has bendable knees and elbows and flexible wrists so that he can be easily posed. Comes with a stand, a miniature microphone, and complete easy-to-follow instructions.
Easy to follow. Yeah, nothing back then was easy to follow.
Oh, man. But, yeah, so I had this, and then I guess another thing that I had that I guess was not super weird, but I have the Undertaker, about the size. It's like 12 inches, but it's like the American Badass Undertaker, but it's like the size of a Barbie, and it's like constructed and built like a Barbie. And I always thought that was weird because it's not like really super crazy articulated, but it's really detailed, but it's American Badass Undertaker. And yeah, I have that too, standing in my DTOF right next to this Stone Cold figure because they're, like I said, about the same size. I mean, like I said, the detail's really cool. It stands on its own, and it looks nice next to that giant Austin computer figure that I have. So
Misery needs its company, you know?
Yes. But you know what? Let's flip it back to you, John. What do you got? What was your out there? What weird Sting memorabilia did you have as a child?
Well, I did have the Sting Beanie Baby, and I get that because, everything pop culture needed to coincide with each other back then. So I get it.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you're like me and you go anywhere and you unexpectedly see something with like a WWE, WWF, whatever logo on it, you're immediately like, oh, what is this? This shouldn't be here, and I need to see it. Like, you go to Marshall's or TJ Maxx, you're like, oh, I wonder what weird basics they have here or whatever. And I ended up finding like a Dusty Rhodes Elite for like $12. So back in, it had to be like 99, 2000. I was in like a dollar store. There was this dollar store by my house. It was the sketchiest place. And they would have like fake Pokemon cards. Like you can get like a Mewtwo for $1, but you could like see through the card. Like it was paper thin.
Okay.
They had this, they looked like Pogs, but they had like Stone Cold, The Undertaker, The Rock on them. But they were made of metal. So you would throw.
So they're like the slammers.
Right, but they were like cupped, so they had like edges around them, and they came with an Undertaker head that had a magnet on the bottom and like a yo-yo yarn, whatever it's called, a yo-yo string. So it was kind of like a game where you would throw them down and then you would yo-yo the Undertaker down and try to like pick them up.
Huh.
It was the dumbest thing ever, but I bought it because it was $1. Like they literally just put out anything back in the day.
That's actually kind of interesting.
So then, yeah, in the same dollar store, I bought, it's just a Stone Cold head that fills with water and then it squirts water out of his mouth. But you have to think, like, it's just a bald man's head with a goatee that's spitting water. Like, once it's out of the package, like, it's the creepiest thing ever.
I love like you said, anything that was like pop culture and relevant and just like an easy toy to put out,
They did.
they did.
Yeah, they just
but
did.
just like it's so weird to just think of the things that they actually had. Like, why was that necessary?
Yeah.
Like of all
I
the
don't know.
things.
I think I actually tried to put a magnet on the bottom and like break down a yo-yo so I could make another one of the Undertaker and then actually have a game with like another person, but I don't think it worked too well. But anyway, that was the question of the week. Again, we're going to throw it to you, our listeners. Please hit us back with any just obscure wrestling item you have purchased throughout the years. Let us know.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All right. And with that, up next, we are going to throw to the hashtag deep dive of Shin Nippon Pro Wrestling 94 Battlefield in Tokyo.
Are you looking to get a better grip on life? How about your video games? Well, VGF Gamers are the largest silicone gaming brand in the USA. They have a variety of different and unique skins for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One controllers and consoles. Check out their products at vgfgamers.com and use code GameMarks to receive 15% off your order at checkout. That's GAMEMARKS at checkout. VGF Gamers. Better grip, better style. Alright, so this game released August 12th, 1994 for the Super Famicom and CD-ROM, developed by Very, published by Very and Fujicom. Now, John, this is the second of 3 Super Famicom wrestling games based around the Shin Nippon Pro Wrestling, aka what we know it as now, New Japan Pro Wrestling. And I gotta tell you, man, this is a very different style of game for this era of gaming. Like it felt very unique. Do you agree?
I agree, especially for 1994. Especially for a CD-ROM game in 1994 and a Super Famicom, which why don't you tell everyone what that exactly is if they are unfamiliar with the Super Famicom?
So Super Famicom is essentially the Japanese version of what we know in America as the Super Nintendo.
Yeah, the games look a little bit differently. They're like a little curved, I guess, but in general, it's pretty much the same exact console.
Yep, it's pretty much what they did before they had the NTSC and PAL releases of video games. So for consoles like the N64 and the PlayStation, like that newer generation, you had the same base console that looked the same, but then you had a PAL version and an NTSC version, and the cartridges didn't work vice versa. So you couldn't take a PAL game and play it in an NTSC version and vice versa.
A whole bunch of confusion.
Yes. And before you ask, John, no, I did not own the PC version of this game. I know you like to bring that in every time there's a PC release.
This is after DOS, that's why.
Yes, that's very true.
So this game is actually based on an actual event that takes place in the Tokyo Dome. This one took place January 1994. It was actually the largest audience that a show was able to like draw fans to outside of the United States, and it was the Japanese equivalent to the Super Bowl.
Now, you say that something is the Japanese equivalent of the Super Bowl. I'm expecting a massive, massive crowd. So, what about like the draw, as they call it in the biz?
The draw of this event in 1994. So this might not sound like a lot, but it's 1994. It's 48,000 fans.
Jesus.
Yeah, and right now, the Tokyo Dome's capacity is only 55,000 seats with the actual capacity of 42,000. And you know, they this is like the equivalent of their Super Bowl. It's kind of funny how WWE now finds these giant stadiums, primarily football stadiums, because they hold the most amount of fans. When the Tokyo Dome's actually a baseball stadium.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, and we've seen like this year's Royal Rumble. We saw Safeco Field. They are using baseball fields, I guess more of like the dome baseball fields for pay-per-views these days. But I think back then they said, let's get as many people as we can. And the Tokyo Dome is, where it was at.
What do you say we jump into a little bit of the artwork. This is, this is our bread and butter here. As two graphic designers, this is where we live day to day. So
Yeah, so this cover, you got the big Battlefield logo. You got all the wrestlers in the game lined up on the bottom. I think that's pretty cool. And then you got
guys like
one,
Muda
2, 3, 4,
Liger and
5 wrestlers up above. I think, I think it was such a hit last week that I have to put this into Google Translate.
I'm a big fan. Let's do it.
You're a big fan? Okay, so head over to your Google machine, pull up the game cover. I'm going to start with the top. Let's start small. Let's go top right where it says Arcade CD-ROM. Arcade ROM rededicated.
Okay.
Let's go to the middle little burst where it says CD-ROM. On CD-ROM, realize specialty ring, Kiroshan's hand signing match call friend with raw voice.
Okay.
Sure. Let's go to the green type to the left of that. You can be compassionate and club Hirayama. I don't think that's it.
I guess that makes sense.
I got a new one. Noodles and Price.
Oh, there we go.
Let's go to the writing above Battlefield. Might have too much of a boldness to it. However, the green writing just translated again to how are you going during the party?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Can't really get this blue writing above the Battlefield. All right, anyway, let's go to the bottom left of Battlefield. Time Strong Sense, okay?
Oh, time, okay.
Let's go by the New Japan logo on the bottom left. Public actor recognition. Okay, that's probably like their copyright. And let's go very bottom, middle. Horizontal Company. Fujicom Co. All right.
Okay.
Not as funny as Toasty Bread or whatever the hell Cutie Suzuki was.
But you know what? There
Roasty
is
book.
always the back cover, John.
Oh, this is a lot. Anyway, let's go through the design of the back cover. Again, you have all of the wrestlers lined up, as we said on the cover. So the back cover goes through, it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 screenshots showing the Battlefield mode, the G1 Climax mode, the IWGP Championship mode, and we are going to translate it. I can't do all this, though.
No, that's fine. You don't have to do all of it. That's a lot. If you Google the back cover, you'll see why we're not doing it all in one shot.
Yeah. So the top right, red lettering. E1R of Shin Hihabro Wrestling actually works 8. The actual consignment of the killing of the playgrounds was confirmed. The struggle continues without ground.
Okay. I'm there for that.
I'm going to redo that one. Super Warriors murderous battle in a realm. The fight continues unlimitedly. Okay. Let's go to the Battlefield text. Battlefield, single with computer. Oh, that's
okay.
Cool. How you could break in during the trial. Law that can be heard as a tree. Play in a single match with whatever that word is. We're going to go to the G1. Okay. The Special Evil is also competed in the league game, the Festival of the New... Another incoherent word. Man, Google Translate's not helping us here. All right, IWGP Championship Tournament. Tournament match with the IWGP Championship belt. Tag. Well, it says toe tag, but to tag 2-2. Thrown newly established up to 4 people. Team members of the tournament during aiming for the best belt. Sure. I mean, everything else makes sense. Like we said on the cover, you need arcade cartridge to play this game. Please use CD-ROM. Again, we're just trying to make sense of a non-American cover. Now, we have a picture of the disc here. While we're not going to translate that because it's the same stuff. Nothing screams 90s CD-ROM like this
Then
disc.
lightning bolts?
Lightning bolts on just the gray, whatever, silvery CD-ROM background, and then just like 2 colors screen printed over it.
100% agree.
Yeah. Love that. That is nostalgia goggles right there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, just the fact, I mean, you had the ability to do all over prints on games during this time. So it's not like you couldn't have done something big, but just like you said, John, that big silver disc is just, it looks like a mixtape.
Do you remember making like mixtapes or burning CD-ROM games? And I had this like sticker maker that you would actually print like the label, and then it came with this presser, so you would press it like nicely onto the disc.
Was it Label Maker Pro?
I don't know, but it came with this like round thing. So you would put the sticker down upside down, and then you would put the disc over it and like press it, so it would like stick to it properly without like bubbles. But you would put it in your computer like CD drive, and it would come out all crinkly because it would get hot. So yeah.
Oh god, that's like full on nostalgia there.
Yeah. So what do you say we get into the gameplay of this? Because we played this for quite a bit.
Yeah. So I mean, I think you'll agree with me, John. We're not reinventing the wheel here. 3 grapple styles: weak, medium, strong. This is very much along the same lines as a lot of the other games that we played. Collision based, lockup. Or not collision, proximity, I guess is the word, because depending on what button you hit was the type of grapple that you did. Too. But it's yeah, and it's proximity based. It's struggle system. I mean, we definitely overutilized a lot of the submissions.
I actually liked this lockup, or I guess grapple system, better than like the Royal Rumble and the other like WWF games we played with that little animation that would pop up. I like this better because it was quick, it was a struggle, it was a button mash, and whoever, came out on top did the move. It didn't stop the game,
man.
Yeah, it didn't stop the game though to make the move happen.
I 100% on board with that. 100% agree. Now, in terms of, I guess, specials, there are specials. I think we only saw 3 of them, and my favorite by far was the Liger Bomb. The animation of the Liger Bomb was great. I love that it's a pinning maneuver. More on that later. And this game just felt really smooth and
I mean, it starts with, unfortunately you can't skip it because it is very long, but it starts with like really cool animations of entrances coming from the left, coming from the right. Each player getting a different side. You come in, you go through the ropes, you do your taunt. Like Muda spits his mist up into the air. Like Hawk jumps up to the top rope and taunts. And then you get announced. I would actually like something for the ring announcing because it's kind of just silent. Maybe even just like a little scroll on the bottom of what he's saying. Or like a little speech bubble.
Like what they had in the top corner of Cutie Suzuki last week.
Right, exactly. The crowd didn't move, which I get. Apparently, the first game of this series, I can't remember the exact title at this moment. It was very glitchy and the frame rate was terrible and the collision was terrible. So for this version, they actually dumbed down the sprites a little bit, which still looked incredible. Like they took a little bit away from the animation just to get the frame rate up and make this game smoother, and it got a way better reaction.
I think that the whole animation as a whole, in general for this game was great.
For 94, they put a lot into this game.
So the game prior to this one is Shin Nippon Pro Wrestling Cho Senshi in Tokyo Dome, and then the game that comes after this is...
I had that in front of me. I just didn't want to read it because you know how good I am at saying this stuff.
Yeah, that's fine. And then the game after this is Shin Nippon Pro Wrestling 95 Tokyo Dome Battle 7, which I guess is to be expected. This is 94. The next one is 95.
So a part of this also that I would like to compare to what we played last week in Cutie Suzuki was how you just kind of fall out of the ring.
Yeah.
It wasn't as bad where like every move you would just fall down to the Lego looking mat on the outside, but you hit a suplex and the guy is close to the ropes, you're going out of the ring. I like it.
I don't understand why.
I don't but it makes sense. You know how sometimes like the ring is the ring and you do a move in the ring like both of your sprites like just move forward to like make room for it. You're suplexing
Yeah.
someone out of the ring. Go out of the ring. But not on like every little move near the ropes, you know? Like a submission move in Cutie Suzuki, you would fall out of the ring.
Yeah, that's true.
I think this way they did it made sense. It was still a little bit annoying, but I get it. A lot of the visuals in this game, not except for like the character models, a lot of the like outside the ring visuals and a lot of that I feel resembled Cutie Suzuki in its style.
Now, yeah, I mean, it's for the time, for the era that this game came out in, for the time frame, and what other games looked like at the time. But I think the main difference, I mean, there's a lot of differences between this and Cutie Suzuki, but just in terms of the visual style, the main thing that I noticed, and I'll even say this compared to Royal Rumble and other games from this Super Nintendo, Super Famicom generation, is that there was definitely a lot more detail put on to the wrestlers than the overall atmosphere. So
Right, like the crowd didn't move, the announcers didn't move.
They were there, they were present. You got that immersion, for the settings of where you were, but it's not like you said, where the crowd's moving, there's flashing lights and this and that, and the announcers are moving. Like, they put so much detail into what was happening in the ring, like the bread and butter of the game, the core mechanics of the game, that I actually didn't miss the fact that the crowd didn't move, the announcers didn't move, there wasn't audio or scrolling marquee introduction. Just that Liger intro is so great.
Right. And I
The
think
Muda
that,
intro,
I think
so
that's
great.
what they took away from like the crowd and all that. That's what they took away to make like that stuff so good.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it shows. You notice a huge difference.
And don't
A
get me
huge
wrong,
difference between
the
this
first
and
game-
other games around this time.
the first game is also like really, really pretty. For 1993, it's very similar, but it's also like very nice looking.
That's on the list. We'll be going back and playing that first version and the successor to this one as well at some point. So
Right, so
we
even though
will
we're saying like
absolutely
it
get there.
resembles Cutie Suzuki, we're just comparing it to our last episode. It could very much just be the way New Japan has always done their games, but we're just going in order of the way we're playing them.
Absolutely. Now, in terms of your game modes for this, I think it was pretty on par with what we would expect from other games and things that we've played from this generation before. You have your Battlefield in the Tokyo Dome. You have your G1 Climax, which is like your tournament mode. You have your IWGP Heavyweight Championship bout, which is just, you go for the big strap, and then you have your standalone versus mode, which is there's a single player exhibition mode, and then there's your
Exa what?
two-player you have your single player exhibition mode, and then you have your multiplayer mode, which allows you to either do a singles or tag match with a player 2. And
Why don't we talk
going
about
back,
Why don't we talk about the tag match real quick?
well, so this is what I was going to say. First of all, before we mentioned the cool parts about the entrance and how great that was, my gripe with the entrance is this. Like you said, you can't skip it. But when it's a tag team, it's even longer because you have to have both people come out. Then they both have to do their little pose in the ring. They each have their own announcing animation thing. And it's a lot. It's a lot to just have to sit there and watch all this. The first time you see it, it's cool. The fourth or fifth time you see it, you're like, I just wish that the start button skipped this.
Which
And
is
then,
kind of weird that it doesn't, but I can't imagine
don't think
going
it
through like
was-
an entire tournament of just watching every entrance. That would be, oh my god, that would drive me insane.
I don't think it was something that was super big in games, like a skipping feature. Usually it was to be expected that you were going to watch all the animations. And
Yeah, maybe we're just
it
spoiled
was-
at this point.
yeah, I think we're just used to how things were later on. But we couldn't figure out how to tag in the tag match, man. We've tried everything. Just
We looked it up.
couldn't
We were
figure it
doing
out.
what it said. It was just not working.
Just wasn't working for us. So the tag matches were short lived. We tried it a couple times, and yeah, just wasn't happening.
Wasn't happening. Nothing happening there.
But onto the roster. What do you say?
Onto the roster, and I am right now putting my finger on my nose. I am not reading this one.
All right, I will take this one. Whew. So you have Riki Choshu, you have Hashimoto, Great Muta, Koshinaka, Nogami, Warrior Hawk, Scott Norton, Rick Steiner, Jushin Liger, Tiger Mask, Fujinami, Chono, Hirohase, Saito, Takashi Lizuka, Power Warrior, Hercules Hernandez, Scott Steiner, Wild Pegasus, Chris Benoit, and El Samurai.
And the actual tag teams that are in the game are the Steiner brothers, and then there's the Hellraisers, which was Hawk and Power Warrior, and the Jurassic Powers, which was Hercules Hernandez and Scott Norton. That is a massive team.
Yeah, and this is a great roster. I'm a big fan of this roster.
Like, when you think of New Japan, this is obviously, I'm not thinking like today's New Japan with like Okada and all that. When you think of like old school New Japan, this is the roster. Now, when you think of New Japan wrestlers, you think of like Liger, you think of Muta, Tiger Mask, like the colorful, animated, like almost cartoony, pretty much cartoony characters, and they did not fail delivering that into this game.
No, absolutely not. It is over the top. It is very, very colorful. It is, we've mentioned it before. Great Muta comes to the ring, and he does the mist, and it's very unexpected, and it's awesome. And I really didn't know what to expect when we got into a game from '94 from Japan, but super impressed.
Now, I will say this. All right. I'm not trying to make a dig here at Fire Pro Wrestling or anything. I do see the comparisons here. I do see how Fire Pro could take aspects of this game and put it into their own. The one thing from this game that I think could have made Fire Pro even better for me was just doing that side scroll angle and not doing that overhead 3/4 turned ring. I think that's what made this game light years better for my personal liking. And I think if that's the way they did it, I get it, it's different. But look at the way Super Brawl was. Not very good.
Yeah. Okay.
It's just unnatural to walk a ring from a 3/4 overhead angle.
But yeah, I agree with you 100%. This is how the better angle. This is like, what's the word that I'm trying to say? The framing of a wrestling ring. This is ideal. If you're limited from the technology of the time, this is what I want. This is what I want for every game. But I think it's time, John. I'm expecting some weird out there. This is a New Japan title from '94. I'm thinking, for some reason, IMDb is going to be in this week. Let's get some R&R, a little ratings and review.
All right, let me just take a swig of water. Okay, let me do re mi fa so. Okay. All right, ratings and reception. Game FAQ user rating 3.25 out of 5, and that's all the ratings and receptions we have for today. George? Did you die?
I thought
Not many going on here. Not much happening. It's a Super Famicom game from 1994. I didn't expect to find a lot of ratings on this. I searched far and wide. I searched for more user ratings even. There was nothing really more. There was really nothing worth posting here. Like, I don't want to give just like, whatever some random website rated this game. I want to give a little authenticity to it. So that's why I just stuck with the game FAQ user rating, because at least it's people playing. 3.25 out of 5. I don't know if I agree with that or not, but That's what we're working with this week. No IMDb. This game doesn't even have a Wikipedia page.
All right, John, what do you say we hit him with some fast facts?
All right, let's go. If you're looking for Battlefield in Tokyo Dome on eBay, prices vary from around $20 all the way up to $50 for the complete package, including the booklet and the original box.
Unlike the previous 2 years, January 4th events in the 1994 pay-per-view show was not a co-promotion with WCW, although it did feature former WCW wrestlers, the Steiner brothers, who were working for WCW's rival, the WWF at the time. The show also featured Brutus the Barber Beefcake and Hulk Hogan before they began working with WCW.
All right, so just a few little facts, little factoids about this game, about, the events surrounding it. That would have been cool to see a Hulk Hogan sprite in this game, but I get it. They were, it was kind of like a one-off for them at this time. So what do you say we get into our weekly tournament, Clash at the Feast? Hey guys, Johnny here. While we love talking about video games and wrestling here on the podcast, we wanted to share with you a new offer from our friends at Stitcher. An enormous amount of shows and bonus episodes are available on Stitcher Premium, such as Office Ladies, Comedy Bang Bang, WTF with Mark Aaron, How Did This Get Made, Bitch Sesh, True Crime Garage, Marvel's Wolverine, and plenty more. Right now, you could sign up for Stitcher Premium for only $4.99 a month or $34.99 a year using our code GameMarksPodcast. That's all one word. Head on over to Stitcher.com/premium for this amazing deal and a free month. That's Stitcher.com/premium and use code GameMarksPodcast. That's all one word. Game on, Marks.
This week's Clash at the Feast for Shin Nippon Pro Wrestling 94 Battlefield in Tokyo Dome. I was Jushin Thunder Liger, and you were Road Warrior Hawk, or just Warrior Hawk in this game. Such a smooth, wonderful match that we had. I loved it. I think it was great. Probably one of the better matches that we've had. There was some fighting outside the ring, some baseball slides or weird basement drop kicks. There were...
So this is where I screwed up.
Okay.
We played a few games before this. We were having a great time. I think we both enjoyed playing this game. So we finally said, okay, this is the Clash at the Feast game. I had beaten you, I believe I was Liger, and you were Muda before this?
Yes.
So, like we said before, we weren't too sure how to pin in this game without it being like a Liger bomb or something. Like, nothing was working. So me picking Hawk, I didn't know his moveset, which kind of screwed me because he didn't have that submission move that I could have finished you with. So he was all power moves. He was clotheslines. He was kicks and punches and dropping fists, like 5-knuckle shuffles on you. So you were the one hitting me with the crabs and... Oh, that sounded weird. You were the one putting me in the Boston Crab and the everything. And finally, you hit the Liger Bomb for the pin, and you beat me. So I think just poor planning on my part here. But I think I could have I could have taken you.
Hey.
But anyway, that brings our record. Oh, man. Oh, you finally are lapping. A 16-8 lead for George.
Play that music.
Oh. So, yeah, you're up by now.
Well,
You doubled me.
it's okay. There's still
Like I said,
a lot more to play.
Like I said, I'm confident about the weeks coming up.
I am pretty sure that you are going to, well, not next week, because next week is, we'll get to that in just a few seconds, but the week after that, what we have planned is, I'm pretty sure you're going to You're gonna walk away with that one.
But before we get into that, let's share with everyone our ratings of Shin Nippon Pro Wrestling 94 Battlefield in Tokyo Dome. George, would you play it forever? Woo! Or future endeavor?
You're fired!
Is this the longest title of a game that we've played so far?
Yeah, I'm getting tongue-tied every time I try to say it.
Can I future endeavor the name of the game? I mean, we've mentioned it before. The animations, the colors, all the aspects of this game were great. It was fun to play single player. It was fun to play with you and with everything except for the tag match. But I feel like if we could figure out the tag aspect, that would probably make it even better. And for that reason, I will be playing it forever. Woo! And Johnny Boy, how do you feel about Shin Nippon Pro Wrestling 94 Battlefield in Tokyo Dome?
You had to say the whole thing, didn't you?
The game, the match, the movie.
Okay, going into this, I was excited to play a New Japan title, and especially with this roster of people that, you know, like this is the roster of New Japan of the 90s. So I very much looked forward to playing it, even though it resembled Fire Pro Wrestling. I was hyped, and then we started playing it. I like that it had different modes, especially, I keep saying, for 94, this game was ahead of its time. You had the tournament, you had the G1, you had go for the belt, you had the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, you had everything you wanted in this game, and then you had the entrances, you had the beautiful animations, and I am going to say that I will play this game forever. Woo! I feel like it's been a while since we both had a double woo.
I know, this is great. This is it's nice. Good feeling.
Yeah.
Good feeling. Now, I'm gonna let you do the honors this week because this is your baby. Why don't you tell everybody what we are doing next week on the pod?
You notice how George said what we were doing. He didn't say what are we playing, because next week is one of these special weeks where we are not playing a game. Guys, next week on this podcast, we have a very, very special guest that is going to sit down with us and answer whatever we ask him. Guys, next week on the podcast, the man responsible for the SmackDown vs. Raw 2009, 2010, 2011 motion capture and Road to WrestleMania modes. He also just worked on Death Stranding as motion capture and a voice. The list keeps going. He did work on Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. He was Thor. He was Groot. He was Odin. The list keeps going on and on. The accomplishments are nuts. Guys, we're sitting down with Justin Leeper.
And I got to tell you, this interview is by far the most eye-opening and interesting experience that I've had in doing this podcast, in playing video games, in being interested in wrestling. This is such an eye-opening experience. It's not just talking about motion capture and game developing. It's everything. It's what goes into all those things. It's how to, what you do when you're writing a video game. This is an interview for everybody. There's literally something for everybody in this interview.
Not just wrestling fans. And like we always say, we are not developers. We're not, the guys making the games. We're just two wrestling fans that want to tell you if we would play an old game every week, or if we're wearing nostalgia goggles. But this is the ultimate peek behind the curtain right now.
But he is a guy that's worked on video games and has written stuff and done motion capture. So like having him on here, it's so cool. There's so many times where we had like a side dialogue going, just me and John, while we were doing this interview, and there were so many times where we were just like, my jaw just hit the floor with what he just said. That was such an amazing, eye-opening thing that he just said. I never would have thought of that. Like, we're very excited to be able to bring this quality and high caliber of an interview for you guys, because this is something that we talked about doing when we started this podcast. So to be still kind of, we haven't even hit a year of doing the podcast yet, and to have something have someone like Justin want to sit down with us, it's awesome.
Yeah, and if you seem unimpressed by everything we just said, give this interview 10 minutes of your time and you're going to be hooked. But Georgie, why don't you take us home?
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for us this week on the Game Marks podcast. Please check out our Pro Wrestling Tees store at prowrestlingtees.com/GameMarksPod. It is currently the best way besides listening to support the podcast, and be sure to follow us on all forms of social media at Game Marks Pod. Leave us a review and a rating on Apple Podcasts, and subscribe to this podcast wherever you choose to listen. And with that being said, we want to thank you for hanging out with us this week. We will see you next week. For Justin f***ing Leaper, Johnny Boy, say goodbye.
Game over, Max.